Wow. I wish I had the video on. I was just hit by an icicle. Hit me right in the shoulder. I think it's going to be March 1st is when I leave. And I always get this little panicky feeling before I go traveling. Whether that's someplace in South America or Asia, whatever, there's this moment of panic. But there's also like a few days before where I start to get really excited. Today is my birthday, February 18th. When I look back in the past couple of years, I've been enjoying myself. Traveling down to South America 2 years ago. I went down to Chile, which was my first country in South America. I was just like almost in paralyzing fear of going there. I was doing some exchange, some volunteering for housing. And I really wasn't sure where I'd start, but I registered with this website. I think it's workaway.com or something. Anyway, I registered, I put down my skills, which is a lot of web stuff, some technical stuff. And a person from Chile contacted me and said, "We need your skills." And so I went down there and I stayed there for I think a week and a half. And then it was about the midpoint of Chile. And then I headed north, went to Santiago, and then kept heading north. Went to Peru, stayed there for 3 months. I also did a workaway where I traded my time for housing at a hostel. But I was working for a travel agency, and that enabled me to do one of the tours. I think there's 6 major treks to Machu Picchu, including the one that everyone knows about, the Inca Road one. But what a lot of people don't know is that there are actually hundreds of ways of getting into Machu Picchu, that there's hundreds of different treks. The Inca Trail is just one of them. And altogether, I did 4 out of the 6 major ones. Also went to Lake Titicaca, cruised around the islands there. Wasn't able to get into Bolivia. If you're ever in Antofagasta, don't try to get your visa to Bolivia there, because the guy is corrupt. I did not want to bring up a bribe. He took me into a side room, and I knew it was the time the bribe happened, but being a foreigner in a foreign country, I just didn't know how to arrange it in a way that wouldn't land me in a Chilean prison. Wasn't able to get to Bolivia. I even paid my $160, and he kept saying, "Come back next week because we haven't got the stamp." After about 2 weeks, there was just no way I could do that. Crossed the border to Ecuador. Before that, I did the Huaraz trek in western Peru. Anyway, went to Ecuador, studied Spanish in Baños, did a hike, the Volcan Tangarua Agua, something like that. I think I mangled that. Went to the Galapagos because why not? I had some mileage from my United mileage, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, I had a travel card. And it was enough to get me there and with a hotel, so I was going, well, I'm in Ecuador. What other opportunity would I have? And then from there, went back to Ecuador, went to Quito, went to Mitad del Mundo, and I'm sure I'm forgetting plenty of places. There are so many places I've been to since Chile and heading north and then east. But at a certain point, about 6 months into my journey, I got burnt out, and but I need to go to at least one more country. I was going, well, what do I want to see in this part of the world that I wouldn't have an opportunity to? Or what is the one thing I want to see before I go back to US? And I went, well, I want to see where Pablo Escobar, where he did his crimes, where he was buried. And so I went to Medellin. And so I was there for, I think, my last 2 weeks, and then I went home. So the first time was a year ago, around this time. I went back for the holidays. And at that point, I started planning my next leg of the travels, and that was to Asia. I went to Shanghai. It was a long layover. I knew I had to stop there anyway, so I went, well, why don't I extend it, stay in a hostel there. I was trying my hardest to learn some Chinese to help me out. Huzherdao. But yeah, I had the same sort of panic. It's like, I can't, no one's going to understand me, which they didn't. What about the new currency? From there, I went to, where did I go next? I went to Taiwan, I believe. I biked around Taiwan. I had plenty of adventures there. I think I was there for a month. Went to Thailand for another month, and I studied Qigong. And then I went to the Philippines, and then Guam, and then I went to Tokyo. And after about 4 or 5 months, I went back home. And now I've been back in Colorado for about 4 months, I believe. I think I came back around Thanksgiving. Now it's February 18th, and I'm ready to head out again. And this time I want to do a US tour. I haven't seen all the states in the US. But in any case, whether I do that this trip or not, I wanted to live independently in my pickup. I just wanted to see how that goes. I used to have a Casita RV, which was one of the tiniest ones they make. It's a fiberglass egg, and it was a 13-foot Casita Patriot. Every time I parked and then drove away, I just kept worrying about it. Like, who's messing with my Conchita La Casita, is what I call her. I sold the Casita to my brother. In exchange, I bought his pickup truck that he had fixed up a bit. Well, I'm adding a second battery and have solar panels. I have a thermoelectric refrigerator and, you know, my stove and everything else. And I put together a very low-cost storage. So I have a lot of like plastic bins on a small wooden platform that I built. And I'm about to head out. And always before I head out, whether it was Southeast Asia or South America, there's this point where you kind of come up into resistance with yourself. And most of it is fear. Like, I had a ton of fear. I remember going down to Chile. I just, you don't know. It's like, my Spanish isn't that great. Will I be able to figure things out? And then, of course, it turns out to be one of my best trips. Again, Southeast Asia, I was going, I'm going to Shanghai. I tried to learn some Mandarin, 10 Pimsleur CDs, which didn't help me at all, really. Hardly anything beyond greetings, because anything else that I would try to say, any other phrase, they would not understand me because I didn't get the tones correct. But again, it's like I look back on it, I was going, wow, those were real adventures. But I have to remind myself, like I was in Peru and I was living out of a tent, when we were trekking, and then traveling by bike around Taiwan is almost less supported than, say, in a truck. I was going, wow, those were real adventures. The resistance that I went up against only lasts until you land. And then once you land, you figure things out, and then things are fine. I figure out most of the time, if I can eat and have a place to sleep, everything else takes care of itself. Sightseeing is just the cream on top of everything. Of course, you have to have planning to be able to travel in a way that's effective. Sometimes it's not comfortable. Like when I went to Shanghai, I had a horrible time communicating. I didn't anticipate, like China has the Great Wall, the Great Internet Wall. And so the resources that I would use, like Google Translate, anything that needed a connection, I just had a lot of problems with. Maps. I think the only thing I could use was Maps.me. If you travel, I definitely recommend that. But here I am confronted again. I'm going to leave this Friday, I think. And again, I have a ton of fear. You would think that after traveling for 2 years in countries where I don't necessarily speak the language or speak the language very well, and have to figure out currencies and where to stay and how to get from place to place, that I'd be an old hat at this. The only thing that's different is that I'll be in the US, and so I don't have to deal with a different language. I don't have to deal with different currencies. And so it should be pretty fun, but it has other worries, like I'm traveling by truck. I don't want my truck to break down. You have to deal with things like, okay, bathroom, shower, how do you deal with that? Just like Bilbo Baggins, it's like you don't want to leave home. But anyway, I think it's the countdown has started. I will leave probably Friday, March 1st, 2019, and I'll head south. I'll climb down at Shelf Road, and then I'll cross the border into New Mexico, and then eventually head either south to Texas somewhere or to Utah. So, wish me luck. You don't want to leave what's comfortable, but that's how adventures happens. That's how you grow. And then these things happen where you plan it out, and finally get to the starting point, and the moment comes where you go, it's time to grow. It's time to grow. It's time to see new things. It's time to figure things out. And then when you ever return, you have it all figured out. Like, I have no problems going back to South America or Southeast Asia now. You've cracked the code. You feel just a tad more comfortable. You also have the urge to go and have new experiences. If there's any message that I have for you, is that just like everybody else, it's like, just do it. The first step is to buy a ticket or set up your pickup truck or whatever adventure that you have planned. Do the first step or the most significant step. Everything else will take care of itself, one way or the other. Laissez les bons temps rouler. Let the good times roll. And wish me luck, and I wish luck to you.